And we are live. What's up, beasties? It's me. It's Triple B, your friendly neighborhood bearded book beast. Welcome back to another episode of Beast Friends Forever. Woo! And I am excited tonight. I have a very special guest. My first guest, who is an author of nonfiction book, which I think is awesome, and I'm excited to have more nonfiction authors on in the future. So my guest is paving the way. He is a trailblazer, and I'm excited to have him here. He is hilarious. He just shared with me that he used to be a part of the Beard Club in his younger days, although he's still a young man. But he had a pretty sweet beard that put mine to shame. So I was pretty impressed. But without further ado, I want to welcome my guest, the fantastic Bill Beckett, an awesome author, but an even more awesome person, someone I'm happy to call friend. We've been chatting a long time, and I'm glad he's here. Let me bring on Bill. What is up, my friend?
I don't know if I can live up to that.
You already have, man. You already have. I'm excited for this chat. We've been looking forward to this for a while.
Yeah, I'm happy. I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad that you asked me to be on.
Heck yeah, man. So we do have one person that's we've got a few people here, but we've got one that said hello. So I want to shout out author Tim McKay, who, if anyone has not seen it, last night I was on his channel podcast called All Caps, which I think is an awesome name for an author's podcast. I was on there and we had a blast. So check that out on his channel if you have not yet. Tim, thanks for being here. All right. So, Bill, we've kind of talked about how it's going to go. We'll just talk about the book. We'll talk about your story. And then kind of as things go along, as people have questions, or we just start talking about life and stuff, sports. We have a lot that we can chat about, and we'll just see where it goes. But we'll start with the book and your story. We got another couple people popping in. Novel Insights, Dr. L, Dr. Logan. Yes, I know you love the nonfiction and the thrillers. So you're not all about the fantasy like me, but I'm trying to get you to be. But I'm glad you're here, my friend. And John Stevenson, what's up? Lurker language. That's right. I'm glad you're not lurking. Thanks for leaving a comment. All right, so I just want to start off. This is your book right here. This beautiful book right here. Love, Family, Cancer. Has an awesome picture on the front there of you and your wife, Bonnie. So this, guys, if you haven't read this yet from videos I made before, you should definitely check it out. It will be linked in the description below currently and afterwards if you're watching this on replay. Check it out. It's a very quick read. Bill's a great storyteller, and it was a good read. I always want to say it was a lot of fun. But that's not quite the right description. But your way of telling a story in your writing made it like a fun read, even though it was, a sad read at times. But you just are very engaging in your writing. So I think it was a lot of fun in that way. So that's what I mean when I say fun. Yeah. And David Sinclair just popped in. Oh man. I don't know. I usually just do cough drops. Don't yell at anybody. That's what I would do. All right. So just walk me through a little bit. We'll get kind of to your story. I think that'll be the chunk of what we talk about it. But I want to talk a little bit about just your journey to writing the book first. So sure. Just let us know a little bit about when you started to think about writing the book, and then when you really thought, you know what, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to write this book. I'm going to publish it. Talk to us about that process. Why you decided to do it, how long it took, and when you finally published it.
Okay. Well, my journey to writing it is probably different than most authors. I mean, I never really intended it to be a book. Mm-hmm. When Bonnie was diagnosed, the oncologist pretty much said bluntly, it wasn't a matter of if she was going to die, it was a matter of when she was going to die.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of hits you hard, you know. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a pretty crushing blow. So, you know, I just had all these like emotions and feelings and all this like Rocky would say, stuff in the basement, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was just very surreal, and I just had to get them out. And not a not a screamer, not a yeller. Don't throw tantrums. I mean, what I do when I have a lot of feelings, sort of emotions, sort of stuck inside me, is I tend to write.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really how it started. Um, it was it was later when I decided to write the story uh, completely from beginning to end.
Okay.
I just recently went back and looked at my very first notes, and they were from 2018.
Oh,
And
wow.
I didn't finish until the end, towards the end of 2020 is when I finished it. I guess I still wasn't really looking at as a book per se. I
Mm-hmm.
was looking at it like a story, and I sort of, you know, emailed people, friends and family, and distributed it among them, and they would give me feedback and say, "Well, this is really good. You should think about publishing it." And you know, I was at the beginning, I was like, "Nah, you know, nobody's going to read it. You know,
Right.
I'm not a writer per se." Um, and then I started thinking about it, and I had a therapist at the time, and she said, You should publish it. This
Mm-hmm.
might help somebody.
Yeah.
You, you never know what your experience might mean to someone else." And so I started to look into publishing. How I mean, I don't know anything about it, and I started looking at publishing houses, publishing firms, and they were just like prohibitively expensive, and
Oh,
I
yeah.
couldn't to do that.
Yeah.
Besides that, most of those places aren't going to publish from an unknown.
Right.
So my cousin actually told me, "Hey, Amazon will let you publish your book for free," and I didn't realize that, and I looked into that, and that's what I did.
Yeah. It's a way to do it. I'm glad that you did it because I found it, and you know there's so many ways to relate to you and your writing and your book and your story. You know, my mom passed away from cancer, so that was one way I could relate, losing someone you loved to cancer. But then I love the way you broke the story, like the title says, "Love, Family, Cancer." You know, you talk about your love story with Bonnie, then you talk about the family and the life that you built together, and then you talk about when the cancer came. And I think through all of that, there were so many ways to connect to your authentic writing style, where you're just sharing how you felt through all of those things, and it just had me hooked the whole time, and just made me feel like, just from reading the book, it made me feel like I knew you. But then, of course, we've been chatting too, so
Yeah,
I do know you. But
yeah.
um, yeah, I just think that was a cool way to do it. Did you think about just focusing on the cancer part, or was the plan for you when you were writing it always to get out all your thoughts about your whole story with Bonnie?
Um, Good question. I did think about focusing more on just the cancer part,
Mhm.
but I don't know. For me, I felt like it would be better if I kind of built up to the cancer part,
Mhm.
and plus it happened obviously in the latter part of our relationship.
Right.
And so if a reader, I don't know, if a person is reading your story, they probably want to know a little
Mhm.
bit about you and a little bit about Bonnie.
Yep.
Um, and so that's when I decided I will start at the beginning, how we met,
Mhm.
and I'll just progress in sort of a chronological way, and just sort of end with the cancer piece in like the last third of the book.
Yeah, and I think it was well done. And something else that you did that I thought was interesting, which I think shows that you've got a little flair for writing, even in this kind of chronological telling your story. You still found a way to not like a cliffhanger at the end of your chapters, but you always ended the chapter with like either foreshadowing or some kind of little like hook to make me be like, oh, I got to read the next chapter, because it's always one more chapter and then then I'll go to bed. But I feel like you're really good at that, even in a story that's really just you telling a tale of a true tale of your life. You still had those little hooks at the end of each chapter, which I was pretty impressed with, and they kept me reading.
I'm actually glad that you said that, because
Mhm.
I did try to
Mhm.
do that.
Yeah.
I know, I knew. I mean, I knew it was somewhat successful because there's a few reviews out on Amazon,
Mhm.
and people talk about that. One person,
Yeah.
when I started reading, I couldn't put it down, and
Yeah.
so that's kind of what I was going for, was keep get a hook in there so that they want to read. They want to
Yeah.
keep going. They want to read the next chapter.
Yeah, I think you did a great job with that, because I feel like I have in the past, I've read some memoirs and stuff, and they don't always have that. It's very factual, and sometimes it can get slow, but yours just was really good, man. And I think that it's clear how much effort you put into it, but also I think you do have a very good talent for writing, and I love to see what else you end up doing down the road, which we'll talk about later on a little bit. You've got something to share with us. So those of you that are here live will have something to look forward to later on. And those watching the replay, make sure you watch it all the way through, because we're going to talk about something pretty cool later. We have another couple of people that popped in, and then we have our first question from the chat. Keys is here. What's up, Keys? Thanks for being here, my friend. And another awesome author, Brian McCoppin. What is up? That's right. Beastly greeting. I like that. Thanks for being here, dude. Dr. Logan at Novel Insights, he asked if the book talks a lot about interactions with doctors, discussion of treatment options, how they communicate test results, and the related emotions. And it does. I'll let you answer that. But that was actually something that I thought was cool, too, is you really peeled back the curtain, and you were very raw and like real about it, about talking about how when you thought the doctors made mistakes, or when you thought you could have spoken up more. And I thought that that was really cool to have in there. So I'll let you answer that question a little better than me, but it definitely was in there.
Yeah, it's not heavily in there, but I absolutely do touch on um, interactions with the oncologists, their diagnosis. We went through several bouts of chemo, and they would start not working so well, and then Bonnie would get shifted to another type of medicine. And yeah, there is that interaction in the book, and I did do a lot of reflecting. And there were plenty of times. I don't want to beat myself up too bad, but
Right.
there were
No.
times where I do look back and say I zigged when I should have zagged,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe I should have done this, and maybe I should have pushed this a little bit more, um, because I don't know. I don't know how things would have turned out
Right.
different if I went to a different doctor. Although
Mm-hmm.
towards the end, we did actually wind up going to a different doctor. Um, and in the book, I talk about a new drug called Pemazir, and we were sort of excited that this was a possibility,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe Bonnie could get several more years out of her life. Um, but the timing was off, and it wasn't meant to be. But I do go into, particularly towards the end of the book, when we're sort of the book is like sort of knee deep in cancer. I do get into that, and discuss those things.
Mm-hmm. Yep, you definitely do. I think that was a good touch, a good thing to have on there, because the story itself, I think, will help people. But even that, adding that in, someone who's going through a very similar situation, that could help them too, to think like, oh, I should. It's okay to ask questions, or question something, because a lot of times I think when you go to a specialist, you assume that they're a specialist and they know everything there is to know, and you want to trust them, but like you said, sometimes they're just not a good fit, or maybe they're just not going to do the things that you think they should do. So I think that was cool of you to put that in there, which which probably wasn't easy because, you know, like you said, you don't want to beat yourself up. But I love in the whole book, you are very authentic, genuine. You share what was on your mind when you were going through all these things. And I think that is what makes the book so good.
Yeah, I think we kind of grow up with this notion that everyone's an expert in their field, and you know, some are better than others. In the medical profession, I think generally speaking, if you have money and you can go to private doctors, you might be able to get a little higher level of care.
Mm-hmm.
But we do put a lot of trust in doctors, and sometimes it's warranted, and sometimes it's not warranted.
Right. Yep. I agree. We have a special guest in the live chat now that says you're their favorite writer. That's fantastic. You knew that some people were going to pop in here if you shared that link.
Yes. Yeah, I did know that.
Oh, that is awesome. Thank you for being here. This is Mom?
Yeah. I mean,
that's what I thought.
I can't be my mom's favorite writer. Then whose favorite writer can I be?
That's right. Oh, man. Well, I haven't read a lot of nonfiction for a long time, and I don't think I've read a memoir since I had to in like school. So you are definitely my favorite memoir nonfiction writer because I really loved it, and it was probably the first nonfiction book, definitely the first memoir or like story of someone's life that I just devoured and actually enjoyed. So you're doing something right, my friend. All right. So next, I kind of want to go into your story as much as you want to share. And I know some of it might be tough. So before we do that, I do have something a little light that I want to share with you. Do you like these are so dumb. Do you like dad jokes?
Yeah, why not?
Okay. I've got one for you here. Okay, you ready?
I'm ready.
What do you call an iPhone that is not kidding around?
An iPhone that's not kidding around. Hit me with it.
All right. Dead serious.
Oh, that's actually not bad. That's actually not bad.
That's pretty clever, isn't it?
It's clever. Yeah. It's clever.
Yeah. Oh man. Yes. These are just I actually got these when I was teaching second graders, and it was during COVID, so I tried to think of all these things to do online, meeting with them virtually. So I would have like a really bad joke of the day, and they loved those. They're pretty clever. Not too bad.
Corny but clever.
Yeah. Exactly. All right. So I do have 2 more questions about the book before we focus more on the story. The cover, I love the simplicity of it, and I love that you used a picture of your wedding day. Was that always the plan for you to use that picture, or did you have to think through using different images for the cover?
Man, you are good, Chris. You are good. That was not the original cover.
Okay.
We had taken, like in 2019, we had taken a trip with myself, Bonnie, and Billy, who's my youngest.
Okay.
And we went to New England because that was one of the bucket list places that she wanted to go to. And there's a really cute picture of her and Billy at a wildlife park in Maine. And I originally, actually, I think I printed a few. I originally started with that cover, and then I started kind of mulling it over and thinking, well, it's not really about Bonnie and Billy. It's about Bonnie and me.
Right.
So then I was trying to find pictures of the two of us, and I just thought, well, what better picture than the day we got married? And
right.
That's how the cover came about.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's a great picture too, man. You look pretty sharp in that picture.
That was a long time ago.
You still look pretty sharp now, but and then my other question was the title. I love the title, and I think it breaks up the book and tells you kind of what to expect so well. But did you mull over any different titles, or was did that one just click in your mind right away? How about title wise?
No. Literally, probably, if not 100, might be a little excessive, but dozens of different titles.
Okay.
I polled people, I asked people their thoughts on different titles, and I have to give credit to my mom, who's here, as that was the title that she came up, and that's the title I settled on, because the book, and I decided to sort of write the book that aligns with the title, where I talk about the love part, where Bonnie and I first met, and how we met, how that relationship grew over the years. Then kind of get into the second part where it's family, get into family life, family experiences, ups and downs, challenges of having a blended family, which you can relate to.
Yeah.
And then the cancer part. So it just fit, and it fit sort of how I was doing it chronologically, and so that title seemed to speak to me.
Yeah, it's perfect. I can't imagine any other title for it. It just fits to a T for sure. I agree. It's a good choice. All right. So for a little bit, let's just talk about. Obviously, we don't want to tell the whole story because we want people to get your book. but let's just talk. Just tell me to start off. Tell me a little bit about Bonnie. Sounds like she was an amazing special lady. Just tell me a little bit about Bonnie, like how you guys met, and that kind of stuff. Let's start there.
She was, and since my mother's in chat, she'll attest to she was an amazing person. Before the days of social media and the internet, there were things called bulletin boards, and you would dial into them. And it was sort of like social media before social media.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So we actually met online, but unlike social media or dating sites today, there was no pictures. I had no idea what Bonnie looked like. She had no idea what I looked like.
Yeah.
But we had talked and talked and talked for months before we decided to meet. And then we met in a park in Florida. That's where we both lived. And we would take walks and continue to talk. I don't know how you get to know a person better than to just communicate and talk.
Yep.
Tell them about yourselves and vice versa, and go through all your life experiences. And so that's how we met, and that's how we sort of fell in love, really.
That's awesome. That is pretty cool. Like, so I guess on the bulletin board, I've been curious about this. Did you just put, like, was there just a number where, like, not a number, a section of the bulletin board where people were looking to connect, and you just put like your name and number, or do you have to say like a little something catchy to try to get people's attention?
Yeah. See, I don't know how many people will watch this and are quite as old as I am and remember bulletin boards. There were different kind of bulletin boards. There were kinds where you could just go on and just post messages. But this one was like an open chat forum. That's basically the premise of the bulletin board was. Yeah. It was a chat room. So it had multi-lines, and it could handle up to like 30 people at the same time.
Yeah.
But you could chat where everybody was in the chat room, or you could chat
private.
You could send like private messages.
Yeah.
And so, Bonnie and I would be in the group chat, but we'd also send private messages. And, when we decided to meet, we just started talking about where could we meet. And she lived in Seminole, and we just decided the park there would be a good public place to meet. And so that's how that came about.
Very cool. Mom did back you up. She said the best daughter-in-law ever. That is awesome.
She kind of liked her too.
Yeah. As I say, that I think that was something really cool to read too, was how how much your mom and your family loved Bonnie too. That's pretty cool because that doesn't always happen. So that is something that's very special. So I enjoyed reading about that as well.
You're
We have
welcome.
another question for you from Keys. He said, "Hey Bill, thanks for coming and sharing your story, opening up. As someone who's also dealt with the passing of a loved one due to cancer, he wants to know if there's been any relief in being able to express yourself in the book through
Oh
your
yeah,
writing."
yeah. I think I when I first started writing, I told people this has been a very cathartic process.
Mm-hmm.
No question. Um, because, like I said towards the beginning, you just have all these feelings, all these emotions that need to come out. How are you going to express them? You can scream, you can yell, um, you can look to the sky, but um, I wrote, and it did help me. It did help me handle it better.
Mm-hmm.
It was a cathartic process, truly.
That's good. Yeah, I think that shines through when you read it. You can tell that you just put your whole heart and soul into it, and just you were just real. And I think that that's why it's such a good read. So that's a good question, Keys. Thanks for asking that.
Yeah.
All right, so you talked about how you and Bonnie had a blended family. So tell us how many kids how many kids did you guys have all together in your family, and how did that how many did you have at first when you met each other, and then how many did you have eventually?
Okay, so 3 children total, all boys. When I first met Bonnie, she had Nathan, who was 5, and Matthew, who was 2. Um, and I was pretty ecstatic to be with
Hmm.
that. But I knew Bonnie was a tremendous mother because she made it very clear there is no me without my boys.
Right.
You can't just be a husband and this guy who supports us.
Hmm.
You have to be a husband and you have to be a dad.
Yeah.
And she made that very clear. Which to me, she had told me years later, like that she thought that might chase me off, and I said, no, that just made me think that you were a great mom
Yeah.
by thinking that way, by feeling
Right.
that way.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Because if it would have chased you off, then it probably wouldn't have been a good fit, right?
right. Um, let's see. Bonnie had. We wanted to have 2 more children,
Hmm.
and she went through a period, late '90s, where she had a lot of really tough miscarriages. The last one being where we actually went in. I forgot if it was how far into the first trimester it was, but we could we heard the heartbeat. I was there and she was there, and we heard the heartbeat. And then it's for the third time she said, she came in crying and said, I think I lost the baby. And so we went to to make sure. We went back to the doctor, and the put the ultrasound on, and the silence was deafening.
Hmm.
And so at that point, I remember writing Bonnie a letter, basically telling her, because she felt like, in a way, she felt like it was her fault or something, and she knew I wanted to have additional children, and she did as well. Which I guess she had this like guilt about her, and I wrote her this long letter, essentially saying, "Look, if it's just Matthew and Nathan, that's fine. As long as I have you and Nathan and Matt, I'm
Hmm.
good. If
Right.
there's going to be a William Gerald or an Anne, that's fine too." And after the third miscarriage, I think we both sort of resigned ourselves to the fact,
Hmm.
okay, it was just going to be Nathan and Matt.
Right.
That's fine with that. And then in 2000, she tells me she's pregnant. And so we had Billy, William Gerald. He prefers Billy for some reason. and he was born in October 2001. And like I said, we kind of had our mindset on having 4 children, but because she was almost 40 when Billy was born,
Mm-hmm.
we decided we don't want to, 3's enough. I don't want, pregnancies can get difficult into your 40s, and
Oh
so
yeah,
we just kind of said, okay, 3's good.
we got it. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there you go. And then you had your family. That's awesome. So did you ever have, because I feel like because you were just all in and you were excited, Bonnie was already a great mom, you were ready to be a dad and step in there and be there for her sons to treat them as your own. Did you ever have any kind of roadblocks or stumbles with blended family, or did it go pretty smooth because you were ready to just go for it?
I mean, there were some stumbles. I think inevitably when there's an X involved, there's going to be stumbles.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I'm completely aware of the fact that Nathan and Matthew have a biological dad.
Right.
And as the biological dad, he deserves to see his sons.
Yeah.
But that sort of caused some turmoil here and there. He would sometimes have them, and like on Easter, he was supposed to bring them back at a certain time, and he was like 3 hours late. And Bonnie got way more upset than I did about it.
Right.
But such is the case with an ex.
Oh yeah.
There's a reason they're an ex, and so there were stumbling blocks. There was stumbling blocks when we moved from Florida to Georgia because he still had visitation until they were 18.
Yeah.
And there were times where let's say that the banter back and forth wasn't the most pleasant.
Mm-hmm.
One that sticks out in my mind was Billy had just been born, and it was like November 2001, and her ex had called and said, when are the boys coming down? And she said, well, Billy's like 3 weeks old.
Yeah.
They're not going to come down until,
right.
a couple more weeks. And it wasn't a really pleasant conversation. So those kind of stumbling blocks were there, but I mean, you work through them. You work through them.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I had a very similar experience. I would say that was we have a lot in common with that. Like I was all in, my oldest, she was 1 when I met my wife, and I always called her like the best bonus I ever got. And I was just all in, but we had an ex, and it was the same thing. I had to step in a lot because they would just go at it, and kind of had to become the mediator. It's funny because I used to talk to my mom, who I was close to, and I would say, I wish he was just, better, or I wish he would be kinder, or all these things. And she'd be like, yeah, that would be nice. But then she's like, but if he was a better person, she'd probably still be with him. So, it is what it is. The reason you're with her is because of how he is. So, that there's that. So I definitely get how that goes. And it does. Eventually, it gets better. But that is probably, I feel like the toughest part of a blended family is that dynamic.
It is tough. But your mom's right. If he was a nicer person, you wouldn't be married to who you're married to.
Exactly. So, there's the positive side of that you got to remember for sure. All right. So cool. That's awesome. And then, so when, I know I've read the book, but just tell us from the time that Bonnie was diagnosed to the time when she passed, that whole journey, roughly like how long was that for you guys?
She was diagnosed in September 2017, and she passed away August 1st, 2020. So she battled for almost 3 years.
Yeah.
Which with pancreatic cancer is actually pretty good.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
But she was a fighter, I mean, she wanted to live. She went through all the things you have to go through, which are not fun, not pleasant. Getting biopsies and her hair completely falling out from one of the chemo treatments and getting sick. You know, and it's like she's battling because she wants to uh, live and
Hmm.
be here with her family, but she just went through an awful lot, you know.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And something I want to say to you as someone that read your story, has talked to you, and I'm sure that your mom would back this up, but just from reading your story, like I know you talked about how sometimes you think you should have zigged instead of zagged or that kind of stuff. But what's very clear is that you were an amazing partner to Bonnie through all of this, and you did everything above and beyond what I think could be expected from a spouse or a partner. And I think that as lucky and as blessed as you were to have Bonnie, I think it's the same way for her, especially through you know, those that tough end of her life. I think that you were a rock star, man. So
I appreciate it.
I just hope you always remember that when you start thinking of the zigging and the zagging. I think you rocked it out, man.
Well, thanks. I mean, I, in there's a section in my book, I'm sure you remember, where
Mhm.
um, I turned to Bonnie. She was in her hospice bed, and I said, "In sickness and in health." And so, yeah, I mean, I do sometimes beat myself up, but I do try to look at the fact that I loved her and I did my absolute very
Mhm.
best. Because you know she mean the world to me, and that was, you know, that was my job. That was part of me trying to do what I could for her.
Mhm.
Miracle, I was going to try to do everything that I could to have her live the longest, and who knows, maybe wake up to a miracle one day. But
Right.
no, it didn't work out that way. But I was certainly going to try, uh,
Mhm.
you know, because of what she meant to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so near the end, I know through reading your story, I can tell that you were like super positive. You were not going to give up. You were waiting for that miracle. Um, do you think was there a part near the end? I know you kind of said it in your book, but was there a part near the end where you really thought like there's no miracle coming? Or were you still like holding out? Because I feel like I'm a lot like you. I'm super positive, and like I feel like even though I would maybe subconsciously know it's coming, I would still be like, you know, somehow we're gonna get through this. Do you think that there was a moment before the end, or do you think you kind of held on to a little bit of hope all the way to the end?
You know, I think it's a mix of both. But I'll tell you this story that I don't remember if it's in my book or not. So you can refresh my memory.
Okay, I
So
would.
so Bonnie and I, in like summer of 1994, we're in Kissimmee, which is right outside of Orlando,
Hmm.
and we went to see this movie called Forrest Gump.
Oh yeah.
And I remember, very emotional movie.
Oh yeah.
Bonnie and I were both emotional people. So
Hmm.
we come out of the theater and we're both hugging and crying at
Oh yeah.
the movie after we, you know, get outside. And what struck me was Bonnie was nothing like Jenny in the movie,
Hmm.
but I always felt like Bonnie was my Jenny, where I would do what Forrest did for Jenny.
Right. Hmm.
And so the really weird thing is I held out hope until like literally the last day. It wasn't
Hmm.
until July 31st, which was the day before the morning she passed. And uh, I remember emailing my mom saying, "I know Bonnie's going to pass tomorrow morning."
Hmm.
And what sort of like really was strange was that there's a part where Jenny dies in the movie, and Forrest says, "You died on a Saturday morning." And I
Hmm.
knew Bonnie was going to die on a Saturday morning.
Oh yeah, that's
And
wild.
I remember emailing my mom. I still have the email. sent on the 31st, and I said, I think Bonnie's going to pass tomorrow, and she did.
Wow. Yeah, no, that Forrest Gump thing wasn't in the book. That's pretty cool.
Oh, okay.
So that's cool. I'm glad that I asked that question that way to make you think of that. That's pretty wild.
Yeah, it was wild. It really was. But up until that point, I was just like, maybe just she'll get up tomorrow.
Right.
Maybe some miracle will happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you go through that because you don't want the inevitable.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. 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 I feel like I'd be the same way. So I get it. And then I guess since Bonnie passed, so how are you and the boys all, doing? I know that you've taken a brave step to do something that's really good for you and see a therapist and talk about everything, because I think there's just so much to unpack when you go through something like this. But how are you guys all doing? It sucks, obviously.
Yeah. I would say much better now.
Yeah.
If people want to know, do I still miss her? I mean, I'll always miss her.
Yeah. Yeah.
It'll never go away.
Mm-hmm.
But to like just function, it's like I can do that now. Whereas, the first 2 years, it's pretty bad. First couple of years, it's pretty bad, and your identity is sort of tied to your wife.
Right.
Today, I can say, "Who are you?" I'm Bill Beckett.
Yeah.
Up to a couple of years after she passed away, my identity was still I'm Bonnie's husband.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it takes you a while to get to the point where you say, I was Bonnie's husband, but
right.
I'm not Bonnie's husband today.
Yeah.
So that's me. My boys, I know they miss their mom.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. They don't really talk about that much. I don't like to push them and force them to, say, hey, tell me your feelings. And they're not kids anymore. Billy's the youngest at 23.
Right.
Nathan is like 37. Matthew is 33. They both have wives. They both have children, and they have their own families now. I'm sure they miss their mother, but they don't really dwell on it and talk about it too much.
Yeah.
But they're doing okay.
That's good. Well, and I think, I'm sure the type of dad you are, they know that if they need to ever talk to you about it, that they can.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure the day will come when they'll feel the need, or something will come up that they will. But my next question was going to be if the boys had any kids. So you got some grandkids then?
I have a grandson who's 9.
Ah,
that's Nathan's boy.
Nice.
A granddaughter who's a year and a half.
Who's
Matthew's daughter. And Matthew just told me 2 or 3 months ago that he was having a second daughter due, I think, in August or September.
Ooh.
So I will have 3 grandchildren. Yes.
Ah, that's awesome. So you did get that girl eventually. In the form of a granddaughter, but still.
Yes. I tell people they kind of marvel at the fact that my mom had 3 boys.
Oh wow.
Bonnie had 3 boys, and they're like in this room full of testosterone all the time, And
oh yeah.
And when Arthur, who is the oldest grandson,
mm-hmm.
when he was born, Bonnie was like, I can't get a daughter. I can't get a granddaughter.
Right.
But honestly, it's we got the granddaughter. The heartbreaking part is that Bonnie didn't get to see her.
Yeah. Well, and we're both spiritual, religious people, so she got to see her, but not in the way that you want,
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would have liked to have seen her, like, hold her.
Yes.
Hold her once.
I know. And I feel that way. As having my mom pass away, she got to see my 2 oldest, but then my 2 youngest, she never got to meet, and they're 7 and 11 now. And I just think, like, man, like my mom would have got a kick out of their little personalities. You know, there's just things that you're always gonna, even when you kind of, like you said, you're better, there's just always gonna be things that are just like, you know, it just is what it is, you know.
Yep, absolutely.
Very awesome. All right, so Mark from Book Lounge just popped in. Hey, Mark, thanks for being here, my friend. I appreciate it. All right, so we are gonna switch gears a little. You did an awesome job getting through that. I know talking about that, sharing your story when it's a sad story isn't always easy, but you did a fantastic job, my friend.
I held it together.
You did. I was watching you to make sure, like, all right, if I ask something too, I'm gonna back off if he starts to get too down. But you did awesome. So what I usually do after this, we're gonna do a little game to just brain break, and then I'll ask some questions about you, just easy questions, nothing too hard. And then we'll talk a little bit about that, and then at the end, after that, we'll share what you and me talked about before coming on here. So I have these this game. It's called 1 Minute Mysteries.
Yep.
So we are gonna do one of these. Yes, and John knows what's up. He knows what comes next. Do we get to play the mystery game now? That's right. All right. So I've got let's see. I've got 3. Oh, wait a minute. I think I've done that one before. All right. I got 3 bottles here. So I'll let you choose. Do you want 1, 2, or 3?
Well, because there's 3 sons that my mom had. And I was born first. I'll go with number 1.
Ooh, okay. Number 1. Here we go. All right. So I will read you the case. Then I'll read you the mystery. And then I'll read you the first clue. And then you or the chat can throw out guesses. And if you're stumped, I'll keep giving you more clues. The clues usually start off pretty generic, but then as you get through the clues, they get a little more obvious. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. All right. So here we go. The case. In the midst of war, a king captures a queen and is then in turn captured. The captor is not in the military, but does hold a specific rank. All 3 survive to do battle again, and the circumstances are repeated. In fact, each time they are face to face, there's no way any other outcome is possible. So the mystery is, why is no one injured, and what rank captures the king? Or basically just what's going on.
They're playing chess.
You are right. Oh, actually, that's actually what I thought it was. I'm gonna give you that one, but they actually said, I don't like this one. I like chess better because it says an ace captures the king. No one's injured because they're playing the card game War. Have you ever played that, where you just line up the cards and flip them?
Yes, I have played War. Well, I mean that's
pretty good. I didn't even think about that because king, queen. I was thinking chess too. I should have looked first before I said yes. You are correct.
Yeah, I was totally going down the chess path.
So was I. And yeah, John and Keys said checkers. That was a good guess too. But yeah, War. Man, I haven't played that game in forever. That was pretty good. You got that quick. I don't even think I had to give you a clue. No, I didn't. Well played. Pretty smart.
But it was
not just the cap rack up there. It was wrong, but it was close. All right, so now I got a few hard-hitting, but not really hard-hitting questions for you. Just some of your favorite things.
Lob me some softball questions.
Oh yeah, I'll start with a softball. All right. So first one, what is your favorite color? Which sometimes is harder than people think.
Actually, my favorite color, people would argue, is the absence of color, but my favorite color is black.
Nice. I wondered with the hat. I was wondering. That looks like it's broken in nice, like it's your favorite hat.
Oh, it is. It is. It's well broken in, yes.
Nice. All right. What is your favorite food?
I'd probably have to say pizza. I know A lot of
Ooh.
people say that, but I probably would have to say pizza.
Okay, that's good. Do you like a local place, or is it your favorite pizza from like a chain that we would all recognize?
No, no, not a big fan of chains.
Yeah, me neither.
Uh, we have a couple of Italian places around here.
Okay.
One of them I really like the best. It's like New York style pizza. I've been to Chicago and their pizza's good, but it's totally different. But actually, sometimes I'll make my own. My son Billy, he likes my pizza better than because I make
Oh, really?
pizza sometimes too, and he
Wow.
likes my pizza better than the New York style one that we get. And so
Your mom said the same thing. She just said you make your own.
I do.
That's pretty impressive, man. Well, if we when not if when we do that hangout someday, I'm gonna need you to make me one of these pizzas now. I'm gonna remember this.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
Well, I
impressive.
mean,
So,
we'll be in like a triangle. We'll be like
yeah,
Georgia, Carolina, and Rowdy's in Tennessee.
yeah, that's right.
We'll
So
all
we'll
be
just
in a,
triangulate. We'll figure it
yeah.
out. So what when you make this pizza, what do you make everything like the dough and everything? Wow. Okay. I'm impressed.
It's good. It is good.
It sounds good. So then
But
do you like yours better than restaurants? I mean, I'm sure you like to just go get something more than making it all the
yeah,
time.
yeah. I do like a place that's local that does the New York style. I do like theirs a little better than mine.
Okay.
I do. It's good.
Nice.
It's good New York style.
Oh,
But I
that
mean,
is
I honestly, because when you don't have any, like my mom didn't have a daughter to teach how to cook, so
mhm.
I learned how to cook, and I
That's
still do,
good.
and it comes in handy now, and so
Oh, heck yeah.
it's a good skill.
It is a really good skill. Um, what's your favorite pizza topping? If you can only have one on your
I
pizza,
am
what would
I am with my son Billy on this 100% pepperoni.
Nice, me too. If I can only have one thing, it's just gonna be pepperoni and cheese. I
Yep.
love all the other things too, but that's gonna be the one. Have you ever had pineapple on pizza? People always want to know when we talk about pizza. Are
You
you a
know,
fan of pineapple on
I
pizza?
don't want stones thrown at me, but I am not a fan. I'm not a big fan.
I think most people aren't. There are some that like it, but Keys agrees with you about New York style. He says he lives in Western New York. It's the best pizza around. There you
Oh,
go.
it's good. Yeah, it's good. It has a certain distinct flavor to it, and
Oh,
it's usually like pretty thin, thin
yeah,
crust.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, really good.
Oh man, that's making me want some pizza now. All right. So what is you kind of already said one thing about how you make your own pizza. So you can't use that. You have to use something else. But what's a hobby or like a talent that you have that we may not know about that you can share with us? So it's something that you're good at or that you enjoy doing that's kind of interesting that people may not know.
Good one. I like making virtual pinball machines.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah.
So virtual pinball machines.
Yes.
So what do you make those through? And then what do you do with the ones you make?
Well, you need the. I haven't made that many. It's just
Okay.
it's kind of an unusual kind of.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm
I'm
probably the first
very
one.
intrigued. You are the first one for sure.
Um, you have to start out with like the pinball carcass.
Okay.
You can either like get a used gutted one, or you can buy the pieces and put it together. But then you start with a computer that drives the software that basically plays out the pinball table, and
Okay.
you have a fairly good size monitor that is the play field, so to speak. And then the back glass would be another monitor that you have up there, and
Wow.
you put it together with you've got to do the buttons. You have to have a control board that can sync all the button pushes and things like that. But it's mostly all run through software. But you would be really amazed at how realistic it is. It's not like, oh, this doesn't play like a real pinball machine. It's actually, you'd be actually surprised. So
Wow. That's pretty cool, man.
Yeah, it is cool. It's cool, and I like doing it. So it works out well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you have any right now?
No, I'm looking to save up my money and do another one because
Okay.
I mean, total investment. It's probably you can do it on the cheap for maybe $1,500 total.
Okay.
Big, much bigger time investment. It takes a
Oh
lot
yeah, for
of time,
sure.
but it's
But you enjoy it, so it's
yeah,
worth it.
it's great. It's a great hobby.
That's cool. And then do you sell them when you're done?
I
Okay.
have sold them. Yeah,
Are you able to turn like a little profit?
yeah,
That's
yeah.
cool. That's
Can
really
probably make
cool.
one for 15 and sell it for 3.
Wow.
Um,
So you just double, well, not double them, right? But you make back your money plus double that. So that's pretty cool.
yeah,
That's awesome, man. I'm very interested. The next time you start one, take like some pictures or videos and send them to me so I can
I will
see.
do that. I'll
That's
do it.
cool. And we're gonna have to get you to start your own YouTube channel now and make videos of you doing that because that's pretty sweet. Oh, here we go. Faith, your mom is coming with the win here. She says that you made your basement into a movie house. Is this true?
When we moved here, I lived in Powder Springs before I moved to Canton,
Mhm.
which is where I am now. Always wanted to have a movie room in the basement, so I sort of did a quasi movie room in the old house.
Okay.
But when we moved to this house, um, I told Bonnie, I said, I want to do it the right way. I mean, I want to put up the drywall. I want to make it look like a movie room. I'm going to put up chair rail and crown molding and baseboards and get the doors to close it off and do the ceiling and then paint it. Bonnie was like the interior. She was really good at interior decorating. So she picked the colors. She put the flooring. We had some theater seats in there and we turned it into a movie room. I actually have a video. I can send it to you. I'll
Yes.
email you my
Okay.
video of what the room looked like when it was finished.
Oh, that's awesome. Did the boys love it?
Um, they no when we moved to this house, Nathan was already moved out. Nathan
Oh
was
yeah.
already moved out. Billy likes it, and there are times when the boys have come over to visit, and
Yeah.
we would go down and watch movies downstairs.
Oh, that's cool. That's awesome. And have the grandkids watched? Is it in the house you're in now?
Yeah,
Yeah. Have the grandkids made use of it yet? I mean, there's
Arthur
no Arthur has.
Arthur
Thank
has.
goodness.
My granddaughter is still like a little
Still
too young.
pretty young, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unless you're gonna watch like some Peppa Pig on there or something.
Yeah. Blue's
Oh.
Clues.
Oh yeah, Blue's Clues. I like that. All right. Okay, so we've talked about how you're not like a huge reader, right?
Yes.
Okay, so then but you have talked about movies. So I feel like that's like a medium that you enjoy is movies. So what would you say are some of your top favorite movies of all time that you've seen?
I am definitely a movie buff and I've seen lots of movies multiple times and I use lines from movies
Nice.
in conversations
Mhm.
I mean in my book, even in my
Yeah,
book.
in your book. Yep. Yep.
Um, but let's see. I would say some of my favorite movies because I have a lot of them.
Mhm.
I'll give you like a few of them. Forrest
Okay.
Gump would be one.
Yep. I
It's a
wondered.
good movie, but also has a lot of sentimental value to me.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Field of Dreams.
Oh, nice one.
I would say probably the other two would be Sixth Sense and The
Ooh,
Truman Show.
nice. Oh, those are all great movies. I
Yeah,
love all those.
some of my favorites.
Now, when you, all right, so a little spoiler here for anyone if you haven't seen Sixth Sense, mute me for like a minute. But were you totally shocked at the ending of that? Did you not see it coming at all, or did you kind of see it coming?
First time I saw it, blown away.
Yeah, it was so well done.
But see that that's the difference is Bonnie saw it coming.
Did she?
Yeah. I mean, she had like more perceptive
Mhm.
capability, qualities. There was a movie. I don't know if you've ever seen Will Smith's movie called 7 Pounds.
Ah,
That-
that was a heavy movie.
Okay, so at the end of it,
Yeah.
and again,
Another spoiler.
mute this. This is a spoiler. Um, when Woody Harrelson gets Will Smith's eyes,
Oh yeah.
and the woman that he was with, Will Smith was with, sees him for the first time, and she recognizes the eyes.
Mhm.
Well, when Woody Harrelson turns around, I remember watching the movie with Bonnie. Woody Harrelson turns around, and Bonnie goes, "Oh my God, he had his eyes." And I didn't like. I'm just sitting
Right.
going, "Okay, how did you know that?"
That's wild. Yeah, she could definitely notice. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Uh, Keys says he works with a guy who was a child actor in Sixth Sense movie. That's wild.
Wow.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It was actually ruined for me by my brother. I watched it with him, and he had already watched it, and he was terrible at spoiling movies for me. So we're like halfway through, and I like have no idea, and then all of a sudden he like says something or maybe he walked in while I was watching it. I don't remember, so long ago, but he all of a sudden he's like, "Oh, did you figure out yet?" And then he tells me, I'm like, "Dude, what? Why would you tell me that?" I was totally along for the ride. I had no idea. So who knows if I ever would have figured it out on my own? Most likely not, without my brother spoiling it for me. But that's what are brothers for, you know? That's what,
There
that's
you
what
go.
they do.
I might have done that to my brothers too. Being the oldest, yeah.
Oh yeah, you definitely did then, because he is the oldest, so that it makes sense. All right, so we're coming up on over an hour already. This has flown by, man. This has been such a blast. So I think now we can share what we talked about. If you are still open to doing it, I'll give you the floor to kind of tell us what you have to share with us, and then let you share it.
Oh yeah. So so I decided that I was going to write a sequel, if you will. Maybe a follow up is maybe a better
Mhm. Yeah.
word, because the first one, of course, goes from meeting Bonnie up to her passing, but the follow up is going to be more about life after losing your spouse, because your life just completely changes.
Hmm.
There's there's so many challenges and things you have to go through. It can be overwhelming. And I remember one of I remember one of the therapists that I was seeing asked me one day. She said, "What do you want?" She's like point blank said, "What do you want?" I told her, "I want my old life back. That's what I want."
Right.
And because at the end of the day, that's what you really want. But
Yeah.
it's
Oh yeah.
it's not possible.
Right.
The thing is, you know and you realize you can't have your old life back, but it takes a long time to accept
Accept it. Yeah.
you can't have your old life back.
Right.
So the book is going to be kind of about navigating through the reality of a new life and everything that goes with that. And I will probably be adding some things that you encounter. A lot of people don't realize or never would occur to them that things you go through, things you have to deal with, and almost try to throw in some things where I approach it in more of a self-help / learning type of perspective. So I think it'll be good from sort of like a different lens than the first one. But anyway, I thought I would share the brief, it's not very long, the brief prologue that I've written for the second book.
Yes, I would love it. And I think that's awesome. And I think that's perfect like follow up to that book. And I think that as much as this first book you wrote will help so many people, I think the book that you have, the idea you have now that you're working on, is going to help probably those same people, but then even more people. And I think that that's awesome. I'm excited for it, and I will definitely be reading it ASAP when it's done, my friend. So yeah,
Okay.
the floor is yours. Share it out.
That's great. I can count on one sale from Chris.
Yes. Yes.
Here we go. You ready?
I'm ready.
In the 1984 movie Starman, Jeff Bridges plays an alien. He asks Karen Allen's character to define love. Her answer is simple yet profound. Love is when you care more for someone else than you do for yourself. Then she adds, but it's not just that. It's when someone becomes a part of you. When Bonnie passed away, it wasn't just a death. It was a complete devastation of my life. I had searched so long to find the one, and for 27 years, my life with her had truly been great. Not perfect, but close. Bonnie wasn't just my partner, she was part of me. And now she was gone. A piece of me had vanished with her. The task before me now felt insurmountable. To build an entirely new life from the wreckage. I can't think of anything more daunting. And that is my prologue.
That is good, man. That is very good. That's well done. I love it. That is good. And there you go. You're mixing in the lines from movies, just like you said.
Yeah, yes. I can't help myself.
That's perfect, man. Now, even just that little prologue was so good. You had me gripped. Did you? How quick did you think of that line from that movie as starting off, or were you trying to think, how should I start it? Like, how did that pop into your head to use that line?
Pretty quickly. Like my first, the first book, the prologue, or I have the. I think you said you haven't seen Stranger Than Fiction. It's really
Need to watch it.
That's a good movie that is so out of character for Will Ferrell because he always does like comedies.
Yep.
This is a much more serious drama, and he does a good job in it. And the movie is actually quite good. But it took me a while to figure out a prologue. I had written, I don't know, probably half the chapters before I came up with the prologue. But for some reason, that line has always stuck with me because I felt like that is the definition of love. At least for me, in my life, my experience with Bonnie, it's like, yeah, that's exactly what it is. Love is when you care for somebody else more than you care for yourself.
Yeah.
And they literally become a part of you. And so I just thought I have to put that in the book somewhere. So I'll put it in the prologue.
That's perfect. I think that's a great way to start out. That was a good choice. Very well done, my friend. And I want to say that when you said you can count on one book to be bought by me, you will have two books.
I'm sorry. Mom will buy the book. I'm pretty sure.
Nice. Well, and here we go. I'm going to show you what Keys said, because before we were getting ready to do this, you had worried, like, I usually talk to fantasy authors or horror or sci-fi, and that's kind of what I do. But I do think that there is a big audience for nonfiction and getting to talk to authors who write that. And Keys said he loves memoirs, and this has been his favorite interview I have done. Your authenticity is powerful, and kudos to you for staying strong. Your words carry power. So look at that. And guess what? Then Keys said 3. You can count on 3, my friend.
I appreciate that, Keys, and that was really nice of you to say.
Yeah.
I'm sort of like, I'm sort of overwhelmed. I don't know how to react to that, but I appreciate the support. And like I said, I'm not a person. I was telling Chris earlier, I'm not a person that I try to avoid the spotlight. It's just not my nature.
Mm-hmm.
But
you're good in it when you're in it, my friend.
I think if you have a story to tell and it can, resonate with people, then you need to tell that story. So that's why I'm doing this. That's why I'm here. And I greatly appreciate your support and having me on.
Of course. And you know what? When that, I mean, I'll have you in on anytime you want to hang out, but when you get close to your second book coming out, I'm definitely having you on again so we can shout out about it and let people know that it's ready. So you can
Okay,
start.
I can guarantee you this much: it will be done much faster, much sooner than the first one. It took me a while because I would shelve it and then come back to it, and this one I'm more focused. I mean, I take breaks, but I'm more focused, and it won't take me as long as it did the first one. So.
All right. Exciting stuff. And I appreciate that from your mom. And I think that is part of it, that we have a good rapport and we're friends and we enjoy talking to each other. But I do think that if you are thrust into the spotlight that you try to avoid, I think you handle it pretty well and that you shine in that spotlight. So just remember that next time you have the opportunity, you are good in the spotlight.
I will try to keep that in mind. I will try to
All right, good. So we'll wrap up here. A couple things. I always have this little stack of quotes that I always pull one out at the end, and I think it's pretty cool that I pulled this one out. This is from Leonardo da Vinci, and he said, "Make your work to be in keeping with your purpose." And I feel like what you're doing now, the work you're doing now of telling your story, is in keeping with your purpose. At this point in your life, I feel like you in general, I feel like are someone who connects well with other people. And I feel like you're someone who wants to make other people happy and help other people. And I feel like you sharing your story is a pretty awesome purpose that you have right now. Because I think that your story is one that is going to help a lot of people. So I think that's kind of cool that I just pulled that out. And that happened to be the one I pulled out.
I agree with you. I think that is kind of serendipitous that you pulled that out because, you know, I often asked myself that after Bonnie passed away. I did ask myself, what's my purpose now? I had a purpose, right?
Yeah.
I was a dad. I supported my family. I was a husband. And you know, when your kids leave the house, it's a natural, you know, progression, but you miss them. But then you kind of settle into this, talking about new lives, you settle into this new life and you retire and it's just then the two of you, you're empty nesters. And I would ask myself, now that Bonnie's gone, I don't have the dad purpose. I don't have the husband purpose. What is my purpose? And so, yeah, I think it's interesting that that's the card that you pulled out.
I do. I dig it. I like it. So I want to, one more thing I just want you to share. I don't want to put you on the spot, but I just want to give you the floor for a second to say what, if you could just sum up like one message that you have for people that maybe are going through something similar to what you are, what would be like from your book, from the book that you're going to write, what would be the message that you really want to get out there to people? Since you have the floor now, what would be your message to people?
Message from my book, message from, you know, things I'm writing about would be pretty simple. Like, hang in there, don't give up, because there are plenty of times where you do feel like giving up. So, I mean, I know it's really simplistic.
No, it's
I mean,
simple but deep too. Like, because
you have good days and bad days.
Right.
You are absolutely going to have bad days.
Yeah.
And I tend to be pretty blunt. I don't like to sugarcoat things because for me, if someone wants to tell me something, I'd rather them be straight with me.
Right. Yep.
I don't want things sugarcoated. I want to know the truth.
Yeah.
And the truth is that you'll have bad days, but that you still have a purpose and you have to try to work through it and you'll get through it and to not give up.
I love it. I think that's perfect, man. All right. So Keys, you are awesome, man. He said again, he just said that it's nice to get to know you, Bill, and your story. And he hopes this is just the beginning of your story being talked about. And he's glad he's able to be here. We are too, my friend. And thank you for the super chat, my friend. That was very kind of you. I appreciate that. You rock, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
He is an awesome guy. All right. So
you know so many awesome people.
it's this community, man, and you were just dipping your toe into it. But this is going to open the door a little bit and hopefully allow more people to find your work and to know you. And I think it's just a great community full of amazing people, and you are one of them now, my friend. So thank you for coming on here.
Happy to be a part of it. Glad to be a part of it.
Awesome. So reminder, everybody, the link to Bill's book is in the description down below. If you have not read it yet, check it out. It's a beautifully told story. You heard him talk about his story here tonight, but read the book because it tells the whole story, and it is just a very special book. So I highly recommend you check it out. And thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. Thank you, Bill, and thank you, Bill's mom, for being here. You were awesome. You guys were an awesome chat. We appreciate it. I will be back tomorrow night at 8 p.m. I'm going to have Two to Ramble on. Pretty awesome booktube channel. A couple of hilarious guys that are good friends. They're going to be on, and we're going to chat it up. So hope you guys can make it for that. But for now, we're going to sign off. Thank you again, Bill. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
And thank you, Beasties, for being here. So before I go, as I always say, devour your TBRs, be brave, be beautiful to one another, and be beastly. We'll see you, everybody.